Welcome to another inspiring episode of Good Morning Minute, where we start the day with purpose, passion, and a little bit of power. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, and today's conversation is part of our special series in partnership with the Empower Her Steps virtual conference, a movement rooted in women rise, heal, and walk boldly into the life God designed for them. Our mission is simple but powerful, empowering life purpose. Because we believe that when a woman finds clarity in her calling, everything changes for her family, for her community, and for the generations to come. So friends, grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and get ready to be uplifted as we dive into real stories, honest lessons, and bold steps towards purpose with our special guest, and that is Nikki Brown. Hey, Nikki, thank you for joining the show today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. And I'm so excited to be here because everything you're saying obviously resonates so much with me. So, yeah, I'm excited to share a little bit about myself today.
Wonderful. Well, we want to know about you. So why don't you just take a few minutes and share a little bit about yourself to our audience?
Yeah, so I'm Nikki Brown. I'm a women's healing and empowerment coach. I've been trauma informed and certified mastery method by basically trained by a psychotherapist. And so a lot of the work I do in the healing and empowerment space actually works on 5 different levels. Mentally, so in the mindset, in the unconscious, somatically through the body, and then through the behavior, um, and emotionally, which is a really big one that a lot of people often forget. So um, those are kind of the modalities I use through the healing and empowerment that I do. And I really focus on helping a lot of high achieving women who have, just climbed to the top, but found themselves just burnt out, lost, like their sense of meaning and purpose. And they come to often realize that, like, how did I get here? Like, who did I build this life for? Like, I don't feel
Yeah.
connected. And the work that I do that I'm so proud of doing is helping women really reclaim a slower pace, a softness, like that feminine sort of leadership, and themselves as a whole.
I love that because being a woman at 49 years of age now, I remember the majority of my youth and 20s and 30s trying to become the thing that I am today, and striving for one accomplishment after another accomplishment. It's almost like just operating in survival mode and just autopiloting through things and not really being present and
Yeah.
enjoying it. And I think as I start entering my grandmother phase here, I started to realize that over the past couple of months. And so I love that you're doing that with women and just kind of helping them regain footing in where they are today. Love it. Well, I like to start us off with a little fun icebreaker, if you will. So I'm going to ask you, what's your go-to morning drink?
Oh my gosh. So I'm a coffee drinker. I really love, so I live in Europe now, and I really love like the cafe latte or a cappuccino in the morning has become a little bit of a personal ritual and a morning routine of mine. And it just feels so warm and good.
Oh, I love that. I am a coffee drinker as well, but I say more creamer than coffee. So I tend to lean more towards the sweetness of things than not. But today we had mushroom coffee in the office. And so I was like, yes, let me try that. So I do like to step outside of my comfort zones and explore a little bit. So that
I
was
would
fun.
love to try that.
It was
Sounds
fun.
great.
Okay, well, let's just jump right into the meat of our conversation here. And let me ask you, what was a defining moment of pain or maybe challenge in your life, and how did it impact you?
Yeah, so I always think of the most defining moment for me being like my personal rock bottom. I was
Mm.
at a place in my life where I had climbed that corporate ladder, I had been achieving so much and doing so many great things, and I built my worth in that. And then I
Mhm.
became a mom, and sort of my identity and like everything sort of really shifted overnight. And I don't think anything really prepares us like no matter how much we know about motherhood or what we hear from other people, I don't think anything really prepares you for the way that everything in you shifts almost overnight, and how it changes you. And I also feel like it brought out some of the things that I didn't even know were inside of me. A lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of perfectionism that I didn't even know was there the whole time, started to come to the surface in a bigger way. And it was so much more obvious because now I had this bigger weight of like trying to juggle two roles and like, how do I be the best possible mom I can be? And also not give up at that time what I felt like was me, like this identity that I built in like my corporate career and everything. And at the same time, you climb the corporate ladder and you build this lifestyle around you. But I was like in this place where it felt like I could never get ahead, like no matter how much I was hustling, how much I was doing, everything was always piling up, and I wasn't feeling the support in my relationship, and that was in a really bad place. And I was just like, how did I get here? Like, you know, how did I get to this place where I've worked so hard and I've done all these things and I still feel like everything is just crumbling around me? Um, and that was a really defining moment for me, where I had to get really honest with myself about how I had created the situations that I was so frustrated with, by my people pleasing tendencies and my inability to say no, and over functioning in my relationship because I wasn't being honest about some of the problems there, about the things that I hadn't dealt with in my past that were making me really reactive to my daughter. And so that was a really defining moment for me. And the moment was really, I found myself just like my daughter melting down, me unable to really feel like in control of my body. And I just put her in her room and I closed the door and I just held it closed and I fell on the other side because I didn't trust myself in that moment. And I was feeling unsafe with her, who was just a toddler lashing out. And it was an eye-opening moment for me where I was like, wow, I really have to get a grip because I shouldn't feel like this in this moment. And at first there was a lot of shame and a lot of like, I need to fix myself. Like I am broken. But I came to really realize over time that so much of what I was going through was just like conditioning of my life, and a person that was really just masking in so many protective mechanisms and so many coping strategies because she hadn't been dealing with everything else in her upbringing.
Wow. Wow. And you know what? Thank you so just for being honest, because I know as a mom, I've been there in those moments of just like, I don't have what you need, kid. And I don't even know what I'm going to do to get what I need so that I can be there for you. I mean, I definitely can identify with that. And, like I said, just kind of reflecting at things here the last couple of months, I too just remember being so driven and just trying to provide for my children, and I mean basic needs, food, shelter,
Right.
that I was so emotionally disconnected and
Yeah.
not even present emotionally, through some
Right.
of that. And I've gone back. My children are adults now, and so I've gone back and I'm like, oh my gosh, can y'all just forgive me? Because I see my grandbabies and I'm able now to just get on their level and be like there with them in the moment of play and just discovery. They're toddlers. And it's such a different feeling for me now. But it's also, when you talk about the shame and the guilt, it's also seeing like, man, why wasn't I doing that for my own kids? I love them just as much, but I wasn't
But
there.
when you're, in that phase of your life, there's so much stress and there's so much
Yeah.
pressure. And I don't think very many of us had good models for how
Hmm.
to really manage our emotions, first of all,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, to manage the overwhelm of life in healthy ways.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that don't have a lot of support systems in place.
Yeah.
And that can feel like really heavy to try and carry alone.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, when did you begin to sense, as you're going through this time in your life, that there was purpose on the other side of this pain?
Yeah. So when I really started to do the work on myself, like I said, I started to try and fix myself honestly, because I was like,
Mhm.
I need to figure out how to make this situation better. But on the other side of that, where I really started to find the purpose is as I was starting to get healthier, like physically healthier at first, because at first, I'm an unhealthy person. I just need to like get healthy, and that'll help me. Like I see people that are like working out, and like people that work out are like a little less crazy. So maybe I need to do that,
Uh-huh.
So that's how it started, like, oh, I need to move my body and like release some of my tension and my stress. I need to eat better because like maybe if I eat better, that'll be healthy. And so it started with some of those changes to
Mhm.
try and improve my mind and my mood. Um, and from that place, I was able to sort of like pull myself out of the hole that I was really in.
Mhm.
Um, and I started to apply for different jobs, because then I was like, okay, no, it's the job that's really stressing me out. I need to find something that feels more like meaningful and purposeful, and something that I can connect with, because I feel like this is soul sucking.
Mhm.
And so I started looking for a different job, and I went through the whole process to get this new job, and they offered me the job, and they were so convinced that I was going to take the job, and so was I, that they sent me a gift, a welcome gift, in the mail. And we had talked a lot about the personal development I was doing. And so they sent me this book, Mindset by Carol Dweck, because they were like, I think you'll really enjoy this.
Mhm.
Um, and that book was so eye-opening for me. I turned down the job because I got cold feet before I even, before I ever
Oh,
even
wow.
read that book. The irony is that if I had read that book, I never would have turned down the job. But that was the point that actually changed everything for me, because I was like, oh, like now I see why I turned down that job. Now I see why I'm unable to get myself unstuck, because I was in this really fixed mindset, and I had created so many limiting beliefs about myself and who I was, and like where I came from and what I was capable of, that I just started to question all of those and say, okay, well, what if I just put all of that on a shelf and pretend like I have no experience with any of these things, and try everything as if for the first time again, like a scientist, just like curiously, like, I'm going to do this thing. And like, I always believed I was clumsy, for example.
Mhm.
But is that really true? Maybe it's not. What if I just put that belief on a shelf and like move through life and experience situations as if I never had that belief? Would that change the way I view myself, my life?
Mhm.
And that's where I really started to make those changes.
I love that. We had a guest interviewed right before your interview, and the way he noted, his name is Dallas. The way he noted um, the belief system is stories, bags of stories that are given. Sometimes they're given to us. We don't have control in our early childhood, but we decide to take own, like we decide to carry them, and so they're in our every phase of our life. These stories, and we're actually living in them, and that he heard like this message on a podcast as show me yesterday, and that brought the realization like there is no yesterday to show. It really is non-existent, and so that allowed him to take ownership of where he was at, put his story down, and create for him, a new story, a new version of himself that is in happiness and in peace with where he wanted to be in life. So I love that you're talking about that, because we accept a lot of limiting beliefs, whether they're self-taught, we tell ourselves through the situations that we encounter, or we allow somebody else to tell us that's what it is for ourselves. So I
Yeah.
love that you're talking about that. So as you're discovering, your limiting beliefs, and you're starting to become more aware of, the situation, as you talked about, this is why I
Mhm.
turned down that job, because
Yeah.
it all makes sense. What helped you heal or even grow through that season?
Right. So that's when I actually, through the mindset book, that started me down this path of mindset. And I was like, oh, I really need to study this more. And that's how I stumbled upon coaching. And it was like that
Mm,
moment of like, oh, like the angels are singing. Like, I felt like it was like that really big aha moment for me where I was like, oh, I didn't even know this was a career path I could choose. I feel like in some ways, like I was doing this my whole life with other people, what I could never do for myself.
Wow.
And so then I started to flip it and go like, what if I make myself first? Like I am the proof. Stop trying to help other people and start trying to help myself, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where I took a coaching program at first because I wanted to work on myself, honestly.
Yeah.
And we started to do the work on myself to go even deeper than like, mindset, but like work on some of the unconscious beliefs and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I really started to make those changes and really started to do the healing, was when many years later, when well, not many, it was only 2 years later, that I went into this Institute for Coaching Mastery, which is where I was trained by the psychotherapist and like
Mm-hmm.
um, trauma informed and like trained in these other methodologies in the body, because I felt like with the mindset and the unconscious stuff, I felt sometimes like I was still bumping up against these walls where I was like, I've made so much progress, but I still feel like I'm hitting these moments where I feel really stuck. And through the work with Alyssa Nobrega, who's the Institute for Coaching Mastery, she's the trainer for that program. It's her work, and she was like very. It was the first time where I'd ever worked through emotional mastery, and B, I'd ever worked through the body, and I felt for me like that was such a key because I was always in my mind, and I was getting so overwhelmed and stuck in the mind, that's where I was coming into these sort of walls. But the back door for like the people that get stuck in their mind too much is the body. When we can use the body to like actually feel what's happening, that the mind is like getting too jumbled, like spaghetti brain, basically. It's like sort of a secret like way in to actually process and feel things that I hadn't been feeling before. And so I found that work to be the most impactful for me because I started to realize, oh, like I've been living in a state of dysregulation like almost my entire life. Being a person that was like highly sensitive, um, I felt like a lot of my experiences were maybe a little bit more impactful for me. And a lot of the things that had happened to me got really like stuck in my body, like in my nervous system. And so starting to work through those things with the somatic tools that she gave us and the breath work and things like that, I was like, oh wow, like this was the connection to my body that I didn't know that I needed. That is the most healing thing. It's not just about the movement and exercise, which is helpful, right? On some level, that's like the superficial body level, that's helpful. What you're eating, and because everything is holistically, like it's all interconnected, right? But it was
Yeah.
so much deeper than that. It was like realizing where I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, and that I didn't have the words to verbalize that until I tuned into the body. It's where I was feeling like the deepest darkness and fear in myself. And I was like carrying this like in my body. And when I just let myself feel it, it was such a release. Like it was like a weight was lifted. And that's when I really started to feel like, oh, this feels like healing. Like now I know how to process an emotion without getting stuck in it, and without avoiding it. Now I know how to like feel something in my body without, making meaning of it. And now I know how to return to safety within my nervous system, within my body. And that was the most healing work that I've done.
Mm. And it's so true because you're hearing even now, it's becoming more aware how the body keeps the score. We talk about ACEs in the field that I work in, child welfare, and how things that happen can bring on future ailments within your body and your
Yeah.
health. And so it's so important to understand that. And it really is because your body is the center of where it houses your spirit and your soul. And
Yeah.
so when that isn't being taken care of. And it kind of is kind of going into the biblical perspective of your body's your temple. Like
Yeah.
it really is true what you feed it, what you do to it. Because even in the beginning, you talked about I had to eat right. I had to start, moving my body around. And you're not the only one that I've talked to that has said, yeah, I've got to start eating right. I got to start moving my body around. I've got to be healthy. It is a lifestyle that you've just got to understand in order to bring health to your mind and to your spirit as well. So,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. So going through all of this and your healing process and you talked about having some setbacks and whatnot. And I think that's very natural because I mean, you're talking about things that have been deeply rooted. So, like a weed that has grown very tall, you have to get those roots dig in deep. And so you've got to
Yeah.
really get into all of that. So, how has your story, as you continue to work on yourself and teach others, how has your story shaped who you are today?
Yeah, so I feel like it's shaped who I am so much because I started to really change my entire life after that program.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I l- literally was like, what environment am I living in? What is most supportive for me? Like, I really started reflecting on, um, what I needed to support the continuation of my healing and my health and me feeling like this is my optimal state of well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that like where I was living, for example, in North America, didn't feel like the most supportive environment for me. I felt like it felt like a constant uphill battle for
Mm-hmm.
me to stay regulated, for me to, stay out of that hustle mindset. Like I felt like I kept getting swept up in like life. Life is so busy, life is so fast paced. Like I have to make enough money. I have to like all these things to like support my life. And I felt like it was this low level stress, this buzz, this hum that was like always in the background, and
Mm-hmm.
also like a disconnection
Mm-hmm.
from people in a way that I really wanted to. Like I I always said like I felt like there was more calling me to Europe than I ever really realized.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was this sense of community that I really missed in North America. I felt like where I was living in Canada, I didn't have that sense of community. Um, Even you have friends for a really long time, you try and make plans with them, and it's like months out, and then that time comes, and oh, so and so is sick, and there's always like something that's happening. And here
Mm-hmm.
in Europe, where I've since moved my entire life, like we have these third spaces, and we have like people that really go out and connect in this work life balance. And so I started really looking at my values and my priorities. And I feel like the way that it's changed me is I started to reconsider like what success is, what it looks
Mm-hmm.
like for me, what community looks like for me, what an ideal environment for my growth is, how I can honor more of my natural rhythms
Mm-hmm.
and not get caught up in the busyness of life. And so it was like a shift for me to just like leave everything I'd known and sort of move away from it, not from a place of trying to run away, but from a place of like running towards something that felt more aligned for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's just been such a magical experience. Obviously, it doesn't come without its challenges, the whole move, but it's been so supportive for me. And I think I credited a lot to the work that I was doing and sort of the evolution of that for me starting to see my life and my priorities and my values and wanting to create something different for my family and myself.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's so amazing. And it's so funny how stepping out of like we talk about comfort zones, like literally you're where you were in North America, a huge comfort zone. It's, your whole life you've established these connections and you're moving to another country. I mean, like, wow. And you have to rebuild. But it's so freeing in a sense too, because it brings peace knowing that you know what? Now I get a chance to really look and analyze the things that I was prioritizing then is it really a true priority, a true priority now? Do I need to look at my values and morals? And I love that you shared that with us. So let me ask you, Nikki, if someone was listening and maybe they're in that moment of in between,
Yeah.
what advice would you give that person?
You mean like in between?
So maybe they're in between that, like that rock bottom. Like where do I go now? So
Right. Okay.
what would you tell that person?
Right. I would say for anyone who's finding themselves in this place of like, how did I get here? That sort of rock bottom of
Mm,
like, I know that something needs to change, but I don't know what that next step is. Um, I always feel like the best thing is to start turning the lens inward. I think
mm, mhm,
we spend so much time with our lens turned outward on other people, on
yeah.
life, what other people are doing, comparison. Um, you know, trying to keep up, trying to take care of everyone else. And that's great, but like we need to spend more time turning that lens inward. And I don't just mean with like meditation. I mean
Mhm,
really starting to like look at like how am I feeling in my day? What's draining me? What's not? Like where are my values? Do I know them? Do I know who I am? Do I feel really rooted in who I am outside of my roles
mm,
or my titles and outside of the trimmings and trappings of this life that I've built, right?
mhm,
Like do I feel connected to myself, to my
mm,
body, to my essence? Do I feel connected to something bigger than me? Can I start turning that lens inward and really just looking at, is this, does this life feel good to me? Does this
mhm,
feel aligned? Does this feel like what I want? Or do I feel a call or a pull to build something different? And if I do, then what might that look like? Can I imagine, say, like a year from now, that this was the best year of my life? What might that look like for me? Without the fear of like what's possible or what's realistic, but like start with a vision and a dream and then start building towards that through your identity.
mm. Love it. So what does living on purpose look for you today? Like right now, what is living on purpose for you?
Yeah, so living on purpose for me is really about like um living from a place that feels so aligned, right? The work that I do like feels so deeply aligned with what I feel like I was always meant to do. You know, when I was a little girl,
Mhm,
I felt very, very deeply that I was meant to do something to help people in this world. And I never knew what that was. And I never really felt like I could find it because I spent so much of my life looking outward. And when I started turning that lens inward and saying, what difference am I here to make and stuff like that, that's where I started to realize like, oh, here are the things that I love. Here are the things that I really care about. And so on purpose to me looks like feeling aligned in the work that I'm doing, aligned in living my values, aligned in um, really just creating from this space of love and vision, you know, like what do I long to create in this life, in this world,
mhm.
and am I doing that in how I'm acting?
Wow. All right. Well, as we get ready to start wrapping up our conversation, let me ask you this question of legacy and impact. If today were your last day, what would you want to be remembered for?
Yeah, so right now I'm really excited about what I'm working on, because I'm working on trying to create a more regenerative movement, so not a coaching program, but like a
Mhm,
movement that is really connected to giving back to the planet and to humanity, and cultivating leadership, like feminine embodied leadership in women who are also like, I want to do something about the things that are happening in the world. You know, I want to do something to break out of the paradigms of hustle and the
yeah.
the consumerism and the things that are like keeping us so burnt out and so disconnected,
Mhm,
and people who are ready to really make a change. And
mhm,
so I'm really working on building a movement that gives back to those causes, not just monetarily but like in action, and as part of like our healing, because I do believe that we start with ourselves, our individual healing,
mhm,
and that ripples outward. But I want people to be able to not just envision that like a legacy that they might leave so many years from now, but like how that's actually happening right now in this moment. And so how the work that they're doing to heal, for example, can impact their communities or the planet at the same time. And so that's really what I'm working on, and I'm really excited about it.
I like that. So aligned with the nonprofit that I also have, that Empower Her Steps, because it really is a long lasting legacy of change. What we can do for ourselves, our daughters will do for themselves too. And it's, just that chain reaction. And I mean, if we, if everyone could get on that and be like, oh, I get it now, the amount of change that could just come from that is huge. One last question for you. If you could leave just one truth or a word of encouragement with someone listening today who's still trying to figure out their life purpose, what would it be?
Yeah, so I used to think for a long time like our life purpose was something that we did, and that kept me kind of searching for that for a long time. And then when I found coaching, I thought, oh no, this is my purpose. But eventually over time, I've actually evolved my view of purpose to be, it's not what you do, it's about living the fullest, most authentic expression of you. Like that is our purpose. All of us, we are put on this planet to be the most ourselves we could be, and to bring the gifts and the work that only we can do in a way that only we can do it, in our own unique way. And so I think everyone's purpose is to be the most full and authentic expression of themselves. And sometimes that's through aligned work too. But it doesn't have to be, so what is most true to you and your heart, and that is your purpose. What feels like truth. Wow. And how you live it.
Wow. Well, this has been a great conversation with you, Nikki, and I'm so grateful to have learned from you as well as we've talked. If someone was listening and said, hey, I really want to get in touch with Nikki, there's some things that maybe get into a coaching class or whatever, how can they do so?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Sunflowers in Sunshowers, or you can visit my website at www.sunflowersinsunshowers.com. And through that, you can kind of click work with me, and I have options to book consultations and to just connect through a chat so that we can see what you're looking to do and what you're looking to create in your life, and how I can support you in doing that.
Wonderful. Well, Nikki, thank you for sharing your heart, your story, and your light with us today. Conversations like this remind us that purpose isn't about perfection. It's about showing up and growing through the things that we grow through, and trusting that every step matters. Here at the Good Morning Minute and through Empower Her Steps movement, we believe every woman has a calling worth discovering and a voice worth using. So friend, wherever you are today, remember, your purpose is powerful and you are not walking alone. So until next time, keep rising, keep trusting, and keep walking boldly into the life God has designed for you. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, many blessings.